It's Humble Choice time again, this time March 2021. Humble Bundle moved their unlock date to a Tuesday, so for these bundles I can now get videos out a little bit quicker. So here we go.
There you are. You are here about...
As soon as I saw the 505 logo, kind of groaned. I thought this would be a JRPG of some kind. Turns out I was completely wrong. Control's a pretty decent action-adventure game with a bit of a spooky vibe that reminds me a little bit of Fear. You play Jessie, who is going into the Orwellian Federal Bureau of Control to find out what happened to her brother.
Alright, it's our enemy.
Some kind of supernatural event happens, and then everything rapidly goes weird. The sound and visuals are fantastic in this game, and the gameplay's pretty good too. It makes this month worth the price of admission, I think.
Stay behind me.
XCOM Chimera Squad is an XCOM spin-off set 5 years after the events of XCOM 2, with humans and aliens now best mates. It's still a tactical turn-based game, but the combat is different to XCOM, and the units can work together for combos and other effects. It feels more dumbed down than XCOM 2, so people who aren't the biggest fans of turn-based games might get into it a little easier.
Target.
Elex is a third-person sci-fi fantasy action RPG.
Earthquake.
So a comet's hit the Earth, and the resulting apocalypse has people fighting against each other to get pieces of the comet because, as it turns out, it gives people superpowers and weird abilities. The gameplay's a little clunky, but for the most part, it's pretty good, so I'll probably give it a bit more time this month.
Let's go.
Kingdom 2 Crowns felt vaguely familiar. It's a side-scrolling pixel art, city building and strategy game. It turns out I owned the previous two games in the series, but I didn't really get into them. This one doesn't seem terrible, so fans of the series will be saddling up to run left and right for a third time. WWE 2K Battlegrounds is a game with 3 EULAs to sit through.
New York City.
Never really got on with wrestling games, I've always found them a bit janky and rubbish. This one isn't terrible, but the game is pretty dull in single player. Maybe the AI improves later on, I don't know. This could be a lot of fun in multiplayer, so for that reason I'd probably rather play this on a console. Next up is HotShot Racing. I've played a load of arcade racers over the decades, and this one isn't terrible, but it does have a few flaws. The AI feels somewhat rubber bandy, but the boost and drift mechanics are nice. It reminds me of a version of Burnout if it were made by Sega, but without the cars exploding when you ram into them. The game has the occasional weird micro stutter during gameplay, but overall, if you like arcade racers, this could kill an hour or two of your time. Peaky Blinders Mastermind proudly states that it's the first ever video game based on the award-winning television series. That's their actual quote. At first I thought this would be an awful virtual novel, or maybe a mobile port because of the gold, silver, bronze time goals at the start of each level, but it turns out to be a stealth adventure with some interesting time-based mechanics. You can persuade characters to open doors, for example, and then rewind time and control your own character to walk through the door that's being held open. It's an interesting mechanic and not terrible, but I did find myself unmotivated to play after the first few levels. Cyberhook is a bit of an assault course, where you fly around with a hook to get from A to B as fast as possible. It's a bit like a cyberpunk version of It's a Knockout. It's fun, but it didn't really hold my interest. Pesterquest is an awful virtual novel. After about 1 million clicks of the mouse, it became apparent that it's essentially a really buggy text adventure. It feels like someone took the cutscenes from a platformer and then made them into their own product to charge people a tenner. It's unspeakably dull and pointless. Wildfire is a fun pixel art platformer with more mechanics than you can shake a burning stick at, from flying somewhat while carrying a chicken, to hiding in grass, to burning stuff with fire. I'm only a level in and I'm loving it enough that I'll probably keep going. Boreal Blade is a multiplayer combat game which I suck at. The fight mechanics don't really flow that well in my opinion, and that's not an excuse as to why I got my head repeatedly kicked in. It's okay. I just can't see why people would choose to play it over the wealth of online multiplayer games that are already out there. And finally we have Ageless, which is a competent platformer with some interesting power mechanics where you age or de-age stuff. For example, plants to get to or move ledges, or animals to cause them to break down barriers. I'm in two minds as to whether I'll put any more time into this, but I have enjoyed it so far. And that's it. The clear winner this month is Control, with nods to Wildfire and Elex. Some of the other games aren't so terrible, so overall it's a decent month. As ever, let me know in the comments what you think. Am I way off on virtual novels being a waste of hard drive space? Is Elex too fiddly and broken to be fun? Like, dislike, subscribe, as you will. Stay safe out there, and I'll be back for more whining about games soon.